we're going to put this on YouTube and on Facebook, Loop Road Adventures.
Very good, thank you.
So, introduce yourself.
Oh, well, in case you haven't had the opportunity to already meet me in person, where my buddy Mitch, sitting over behind the camera, has, my name is Lucky Cole. I live here on Loop Road, and I got 1,000 stories. One of which Mitch is coaching me into telling today, because he's going to put it up for me. Free advertising. You got to get as much of that as I possibly can.
That's the plan.
Thank you, Mitch. I got to think back on one of my early ones. When I was out here, I was a teenager, probably 18 and 19 years old. A mile down the road from where we are right now, my buddy Ben Wolf owned that property. Bought it in 1965. As a kid, I had gotten to know him through my uncle. Came out here, and when Ben bought his place, I tagged along with him. I had a weekend place there up until the time we bought this place. But I'm regressing a bit. Let me go back. I'm 18, 19 years old. I came out here to see Ben, drove out my old pickup truck that I had, gun rack up in the back with the guns and all whatever went along with the swamps then. Had a young guy, a friend of mine, coming with me. He's probably, if I was 18 or 19, he was 16 or 17 years old. Both of us underage. We're drinking for sure. Now we've been down to Ben Wolf's hunting. Been out with Ben on his half-track hunting all day, probably on a Saturday. And I'd finished up, and the kid had to get back into town. So we're driving back down Loop Road, and the Gator Hook Lodge, man, it was wound up. On Saturday nights, you could hear it. You hear it from a mile, 2 miles away. The music blaring, guitar, banjo, fiddle going, Irvin playing his Orange Blossom Special. And I told my buddy, I said, listen, I got a parking space here on the side of the loop. I'm just going to pull on over. And we'll go on up in there, we'll get a beer. Have a beer. And he goes, I'm 17 years old. He says, not going to sell me a beer. I said, you know what? Don't even worry about it. Out here, they don't even check IDs. They don't even ask you if you have an ID. And here I am, about 18 or 19. So I park, and I'm all macho. I'm trying to impress my young friend with me, and I'm walking up towards the steps. And it's 3 steps, a little concrete landing, and a railing right next to the door as you go in. So I'm walking across the street back over towards the Gator Hook Lodge, and I see this as I'm getting up close to the steps. There's this big old burly hunter, big old beard on him. He's leaning over against the steps outside. He's got a beer in his hand, big Bowie knife hanging down his side there, and he's up against the wall and he's chewing tobacco. And I'm watching him as I get up close. The steps maybe about 3 feet wide. I'm thinking, woof, boy, I don't want to have to deal with this big bear. And so I'm kind of creeping up there. I figure I could sneak by him. He wouldn't pay any attention to me. Now, about the time I get my foot up on the first step, and I got a hold of the railing, I'm going for the second step, and he's leaning over the railing there, and he's spit out a big wad of chewing tobacco, and the juice is running down the side of his beard. He turns around real slow. He looks right at me, right eye to eye. He says, boy, and I froze. Absolutely froze right there. I think my foot was still heading for the second step, and I had a hold of that railing. And I'm there, I freeze, and he says, boy! I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And he looks me up and down, and he says, you got a gun or a knife on you? I said, no, sir. No, sir, I don't. He said, well, you better get back over to that truck and get one before you come in here, boy. I backed down those steps. I turned around. My friend followed me back over to the truck. We got back in that old pickup truck of mine, drove straight to Miami. That's a true story. Let me tell you.